Detecting and responding to threats in the cloud is harder than doing it on-prem. Even when you do have the visibility you need, legacy security workflows weren't designed for the speed and complexity of cloud environments. Cloud-native security solutions from ExtraHop are purpose-built to spot threats across the hybrid attack surface, provide detailed investigation steps, and help you automate response. Request your 30-day free trial at securityweekly.com/ExtraHop. Welcome back, everyone, to Enterprise Security Weekly. Join us at InfoSec World 2020. Virtually join us June 22nd through the 24th, as it's now a full virtual event. Security Weekly listeners still save 15% off the InfoSec World main conference or World Pass. Visit securityweekly.com/ISW 2020. Click the register button and get registered with our discount code. George Bellefontaine is here with us. He's the manager of vulnerability management at Toyota Financial. He's been in the IT security industry for more than 20 years and is a proud Qualys customer. Here to talk about how vulnerability management works in practice. For those that want to learn more about the Qualys solution, you can visit securityweekly.com/Qualys. George, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Nice to have you on. George, I guess if you could start maybe by just kind of giving us an overview of kind of your experiences with Qualys, as you've been a longtime customer, and maybe talk about some of the foundations of your vulnerability management program at Toyota Financial.
Sure. Been using Qualys for quite a few years, as stated. The software that that's being deployed, basically the software or the process that goes through detecting vulnerabilities, and has always been focused around the patch management side of the house. And at the very beginning, Qualys was really focused on that. So in other words, if there was a vulnerability in the wild, vendors would come out and have patches, and they would be a great tool to identify what needed to be remediated from a patch point of view and updating the operating system. It all evolved into as well doing remediation for additional software that's installed on the machines. But now with the game changing so much and the virtualization of so many things, there are lots of vulnerabilities that are also in the settings, so the hardening of the devices. So Qualys has really moved along and is looking at all aspects of looking just for vulnerability in code, if I may say, in the software deployed, but also into the configurations and how you should harden your machines and the environment around it. So originally, I started off with just providing reports on here's what you got to go patch and here's what you need to do. And now we've evolved into looking more at the risk factor. And obviously, we still feed the requirements of what you need to patch, but what also you need to harden in order to remediate and to have compensating controls so that you don't get breached.
Matt?
Yeah, George, when you think about kind of the environment we're in now, right, in the original way, and I worked at Qualys from 2009 to 2012. I think we've crossed paths there when I was there. And, back in the old days, right, we thought about scanning all the devices on the network, collecting our vulnerability data, identifying patching, send them over to the IT ops team, use SCCM, whatever, to patch. We're different now, right? Now that everybody's kind of remote, everybody's not on the network anymore. How has your vulnerability management program had to shift and change? And then what are some of the features and capabilities that Qualys is allowing you to leverage to make it a little easier to do what we used to do when everybody was on site?
Well, Qualys has evolved. Originally, you remember as I do, the initial scans were just a scan, and it would try to collect as much information as possible, possibly even just from signatures that are coming back from the device to say, that this malformed packet is identifying this vulnerability. Then we went down the path of authenticating on. Then we went down the path of putting a dissolvable agent, which the agent permitted you to go ahead and do directory traversals, look at registry, look at so many other things. Then it evolved to having a full-time agent. And I'm really lucky in the way we deployed here at Toyota. We deploy the full agent, the cloud agent, on 90% of our machines. So, and when I say that, I'm saying not only the workstations or the laptops, desktops that are around, but as well on servers. So one of the things by doing that, because this pandemic forced the majority of our facility to shut down from a people point of view, being inside of it, it's only very much a skeleton crew that's there today. Everybody's working from home because of the pandemic. So having those agents, I'm still able to keep my finger on the pulse as to what vulnerabilities are there, and I'm not having to scan everybody's remote access VPN connection in order to determine that. So the agent, the evolution of using agents, and I'm lucky to have deployed it in such a large volume, has made it seamless for me to stay connected and understand what's going on with all the assets, even if they're located somewhere else away from the facility.
Yeah, I mean, Qualys' agent is a very interesting agent technology, right? It's pretty lightweight, collects a lot of the data that it needs for vulnerability configuration, file integrity, et cetera, kind of passes that data back up to the cloud as soon as you connect to the internet, and boom, you can still get all your results. That's pretty efficient when we're dealing in a remote workforce right now.
Absolutely. It offers more than what you stated. One of the big things that I'm really pleased with right now is the fact that I have a more reasonable asset management. I better understand what's, in other words, it doesn't do true full asset management. It basically just tells me asset management of what's living and breathing and turned on. As well as I do that, a full asset management system, like a ServiceNow, goes from cradle to death of a device. So it even does the billing and all of the the costs behind it. But Qualys offers their asset management module to me, which is I'm leveraging it tremendously right now, is to better understand what is on the devices, what devices are reporting back. We may have some devices that somebody is on vacation, is gone for a month. We have several people that work from overseas, that take longer vacations. So by having the asset management, we basically know what the device has and and we can tell it was online at this time and it was offline at this other period. So we're able to do more analysis. The vulnerability management part of the agent is superb because it actually runs all the little checks and scripts that you would use to determine, is there an issue with a device? It's not just looking at what software was installed, is what I'm trying to say. The other part is that it's also now feeding with IOC and Threat Protect back in. So we've enabled that on some of our critical devices. The Threat Protect is for all, but the IOC is just for certain ones that we view that are deemed more critical. And it really has assisted us in reducing our response time and better following keeping our finger on the pulse from a security team point of view.
So the integration with Threat Protect and IOC, I think, are interesting, right? I assume you're leveraging Threat Protect and the IOC capabilities to help prioritize what threat actors are out there based on the vulnerability results that you're getting back. Is that helping you from a prioritization standpoint when
Yes.
it comes to your remediation activities?
Absolutely. We focus on trying to remediate, obviously, from the threat feeds, what is identified to be the high hitters in the environment. So in our meetings that we have, talking about the topic of what prioritization to patch, we do identify those items first, and we ask that the teams that do the patching, that they focus on those first.
Right.
George,
and then,
sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Paul.
No, I was
No, I'm good.
So George, when you work with your various operations and IT folks to apply the patches, what does that communication look like today in Qualys? And are they using the product? And how do you close the loop in terms of, we found a vulnerability, someone has to patch it, and we have to check it again?
Well, you'd be surprised. Okay, I don't know how much feedback you guys get from the actual field, but it used to be before that the teams only wanted a CSV report. Just give me a report, okay? And then they had this long list of things to look at, and they would try to schedule the patching in accordance with what they saw in the report. So they were driving the patching from that. Now it's shocking, but now the teams that are doing the patching, they're using the Qualys platform to actually do some of the analysis using the Asset View module, for example. So they're able to further dive in to further strategically plan their patching instead of just using the native SCC, in our case, SCCM tool. I have other affiliates that use BigFix, and it just depends on the where you are. It's for any tool. So the prioritization is definitely the teams are going into Qualys more. It used to just be the security team that would use Qualys and just spit out reports and deliver the reports on a monthly basis, and off we go running. But now they're more interested in being able to dive into the nitty gritty of it and look more at what it gives in prioritization so that they can defend themselves better to their management.
Yeah, I truly believe that's a huge win for an organization when you start to integrate other non-security teams into your security platform, right? Because it all just happens within the platform rather than sending, an email with a report, waiting for a response, kicking off a scan. Like all that is just manual effort that is much better served to basically use the automation and system all in one place for all the teams.
Yes, absolutely.
That's great. Now, are they using the patch management functionality within Qualys? I know it's a newer feature. Are there plans to do that?
Oh, yes. We have been testing it. Please, I'm not just for North America. I do the global vulnerability management program. So I have other countries that are Toyota Financial Services branded and that we provide the platform to. And they actually are testing it and have been using it. Very successful. So just to kind of, for the topic here, the large organizations that use the large software like SCCM or BigFix to manage the whole environment and try to do it with efficiency, it works great for doing operating system and the Microsoft topics. Okay, but when you start looking at all the other ancillary software that's installed on the machine, sometimes it's difficult to patch using those big tools. So the Qualys tool, the patch management module of it, is also there to offer assistance in that, in my opinion, for the big companies, or the big organizations. But when you have a small organization, some of the countries that I represent are small teams. There may be in the total IT department 5 people, and they are taking care of a country of their own. So in those cases, the single pane of glass of having Qualys and the neat feature that you have of, here are the vulnerabilities, here's the prioritization, like in VMDR, where you can prioritize things, and then you can say, okay, show me the list of those devices, and then you can start from there, one click, go to the patch management module and start scheduling jobs is a huge factor for, again, smaller organizations, smaller teams that have more control over their environment because it's a single person taking care of everything. They do not only the patching, they install the new machine, the devices. They would absolutely test the software that would be needed by the business. They're doing everything as a one small coherent team. And to me, now you've just reached out and touched those guys to give them a lot of assistance.
Yeah, no, that's a great perspective. I think we tended to put enterprises in like different lumps, like large and small, right? But what you can lose sight of without having a practitioner is, no, in a large enterprise, you may have some of those smaller entities that take advantage of different features in the product. That's awesome. Matt?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it sounds like for the large sites where you already have a patching solution in place, great for the operating system patches, and then you're augmenting, it sounded like, using the Qualys agent and patching capabilities for like third-party software. But then for your small environments, OS and third-party patches, since they don't have another system, just happen through the Qualys agent capability.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's it. And also there's one last thing that I don't know if many people realize, but if you have the agents deployed and you have the patch management module purchased and you have the capability of using it, let's say that there is a serious issue like a worm or something that that can be stopped with pushing a patch or changing a setting. You can go in and strategically just do one thing, and go push that to all the machines that have Qualys, and then validate right after, because it does that as part of its process. By pushing the patch, it validates that the issue is remediated. So it's a quick way to do things, and I viewed it as we could probably do that in an 8-hour period. We could touch the whole environment of several thousands of machines. So I'm looking forward to using it one day. That hopefully it never happens, but one day that if we do have a serious issue on the network, we can strategically remove it or reduce its growth by using the patch management module just for a strategic pinpoint strike on it.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
George, we've seen a proliferation of agents over the past few years, right? There was a trend years ago where we wanted to get agents off the box, and then agents became popular again, and we saw that rise of the agent back on the box. With Qualys's agent, I mean, obviously you're adding a lot of capabilities into a single agent, which I think is very interesting. You've got VM configuration. We rattled off a bunch. Outside of Qualys, how many other agents do you really need to load on do they replace everything for you, or there's still a few scenarios where other agents are required? I'm just curious.
They don't replace everything. So there are other agents that we do use. And I'm not going to call them off here on this call.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like
security agents. But
okay.
The thing that Qualys, because I'm talking to obviously your engineering department, one of the new features that I'm really looking forward to having is, for example, being able to pull logs off of the machines using your agent. So I'm looking at trying to improve my knowledge of what's going on with devices out there, so that I can eliminate the false positive is probably not the word I should use, because false positive really has a specific meaning, but they may be positive for having the issue, but they may not be leverage for an exploit at the time. So I'd like to be able to determine, here are the ones that are actively being used from an exploit point of view. Then here's the blast radius that you have, and then here's what we should do to remediate this. But again, prioritize on the assets that are showing that there is active exploiting happening on them.
Yeah, and that's in prep for some of the content we have coming up. I was looking at exactly that issue, right? And then when the scanner says this could be an issue, you're like, well, okay, what's the likelihood, right? And then the scanner even told me, it wasn't Qualys, right? It was some other scanner told me that this probably could be exploited, but it's really hard. And I'm like, no. And then I look into it, I'm like, no, that's really hard. That should be low priority, right? So trying to look at that in a global enterprise, right? I'm looking at one device that I was doing a specific pen test on. Looking at that on a global scale requires a lot more fine tuning.
And again, it's having all the knowledge to be able to do it. So the Qualys tool, its volume of what it collects is growing and growing daily. It's shocking, actually, the amount of data that it has inside of your assets. So we're trying to better understand how to extract that data and make it usable. So one of the things we struggle with is always, how do you display it? We can, and I do work with the Qualys team to, create the right kind of views on their GUI. But we also like to go down the path of using the API calls to pull data out and to start doing analysis on that.
Yeah, and what I love about that analysis too is you can be very narrow in your focus, right? And one of the issues that I was looking at this one device was there wasn't necessarily a vulnerability in a JavaScript library, but the one that it was using was 5 years old, right?
Yes.
And I think like a great report for your developers, or even if it's in another system, is, this thing that you're using is 5 years old. Project's been abandoned. They're on a whole new version now. We should probably put that somewhere in the project planning to update that, right? It's not the highest priority, but it could cause an issue, not to mention support, maintenance, troubleshooting. You probably want to update the older stuff, right? And looking at it from those various perspectives.
Absolutely.
And so, George, I was going to say, I know you were one of the early adopters. So the ability to close the loop with VMDR, good thing for the industry, for yourself?
Yeah, for myself, it has assisted, guys. I mean, I have to say it as it is. It has assisted. There's always room for improvement. That's why I stay in good communication with my TAM, and we work together at trying to look at the data differently, and then he better understands me. So we then work together on putting in feature requests and trying to improve. The hard part is always the Qualys tool is great. All the vulnerability tools, okay, are usually reasonable, okay, but Qualys is great. But they're good at discovering stuff. Okay, finding the issues is not the problem anymore. It's how do you distribute it to the right person that can fix it. So having that organizational knowledge, because today, guys, I mean, if I have a Windows vulnerability, something simple that needs to be patched, I don't give it to just one team. I have to slice the data up into a multitude of reports that would go to each individual team that's responsible for fixing the data. So that's why I'm really excited about the asset management module, the global asset inventory module that they have in Qualys now. And what I'm going to be doing is adding tags to that so that I can start identifying the assets that belong to a particular group that has the accountability for those assets, for maintaining them and keeping them healthy. So again, when I report up to my senior management, they like to see not just that Windows has issues, but they like to see that this team has issues versus this other team doesn't. And then they ask the question to the accountable person, why do you have issues and this one doesn't? Why can't you get this done and why not here? And again, it's just about who you lean on to get things remediated so that we have the least amount of exposure.
Yeah, it's true. And you don't want to do the shaming game. I mean, sometimes you do, but most often you don't, right? And it's not a matter of, shaming someone. It could be this group needs more resources, right?
Well, that's exactly how we're using it. I mean, we don't have that in our culture to shame people here at Toyota. The idea is to give, it's okay to make a mistake. It's then finding a way to recover from that mistake. So if a team doesn't have, can't do something, well, we try to identify it, make it aware, engage the right people, socialize the problem, and look at others. Do they have that same problem? If they don't have that same problem, what are they doing different so that we can assist the team that does have the problem? So it really is a give and take that we're trying to work through and be very positive about trying to reduce risk in the environment.
Yeah, that's really awesome. George, thank you so much for the insights into your vulnerability management program and sharing those with ourselves and our audience. It was very much appreciated.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
And with that will conclude this segment. You can go to securityweekly.com/Qualys, find out more about the VMDR solution. And with that, we'll take a short break and come back with our final interview for the show from Viavi. Stay tuned.